There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned in to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Along with me, the lovely and talented Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Oh, you flatter me. Hello.
Well, it's a supernatural news day. Your day to shine, Tim, as you report from strange news all around the world. You have traveled forward, backward, up and down around this globe of ours, scouring the planet for only the best news to share. So I think you deserve the accolades.
Oh, thank you.
I do want to make a quick mention to people that, again, we've got a really cool deal going on with our True Crime Tuesday podcast. If you subscribe now and maintain your membership through to January 1st, you will be entered into a drawing for $500. We'll do that drawing around the 1st of January, and one lucky listener will win $500 of Tim's hard-earned money.
Well,
so go subscribe right now. Make sure you subscribe. You do that by going to darknessradio.com and click on the True Crime Tuesday banner and get your True Crime Tuesday on. You guys are going to love it. If you like our show, you're going to love True Crime Tuesday. We have a lot of fun. We talk about some of the most bizarre and unusual cases. And then, to top it off, Tim, little dumb crime, stupid criminals.
Yeah, well, that's one of the most fun parts of the show ever.
That is. Yeah. All right, let's get this thing going, Tim. Let's get it started in here, as the kids would say. Let's get it started now. Let's get it started in here.
That's do you realize
I'm so hip?
Almost a decade old now?
What is?
That let's get it started thing.
What get what started?
Well, that whole,
the song I was just quoting.
Yeah.
Oh, time keeps on slipping, man, into the future.
Yeah, I know. Whew, say. All right.
Where are we going to begin our journey this week in the world of supernatural news?
To a story of heartbreak and disappointment, Dave.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I love those. That's a good way to kick off any show. What's going on?
Well, evidently this kid hasn't seen The Last Jedi. And surprisingly, I'll explain a little bit after the story too, Dave. It turns out a 10-year-old has refused to fight bullies because it's not the Jedi way. Even Star Wars actor. I know, it's sweet. It's
not the Jedi way, Tim.
Well, but
you and I are a little tender on the subject, as we were both bullied for parts of our life. But I do think this is a sweet story.
It is. Star Wars actor Mark Hamill has sent a message of support after a boy refused to fight bullies because it's not the Jedi way. 10-year-old Aiden Vasquez from California was beaten by bullies at school and refused to fight back because it was not the Jedi way. Hamill, who portrayed Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars franchise, tweeted his support for the young man. He said, "I'm so proud of you for showing that you can be a Jedi in real life," Hamill wrote. Here's the thing, though. He never saw The Last Jedi, the part where Luke says that the Jedi must die, because everything they did was wrong, Dave, because they were essentially
too passive.
Yeah. Well, that and when they went to make moves, basically everything went, pardon the expression, tits up on them. Everything was violent. They ended up killing children with lightsabers, and essentially everything was corrupt. So I mean, the kid could have just went nuts on the other kids and went to the dark side. I'm just saying.
I think that's the point, Tim, is that he's not supposed to. He was trying to be above that. But he was trying to be old school Jedi, son. Old school, I say.
Oh, well, but Jedi are violent and corrupt too, Dave. I mean,
That's what they tell me.
You didn't pick the right side.
Look at Anakin. I guess you're right.
Yeah, you didn't pick the right side of the Jedi, Dave. I mean, he did. I guess.
All right, where are we off to next?
Next, we...
if you haven't seen the video for that, it's very touching. Because the boy is standing there in a Stormtrooper T-shirt, and his mom is standing in a Chewbacca T-shirt, and they're standing there at the school council meeting. And he just says, I just want a place where we can all go and be safe.
Aww.
And they're going after the kids that did this. So that's good news.
That's good. That's
because you know what? Legally, you got to. Unfortunately, we can't keep mollycoddling bullies.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. If you don't want your kid in jail, teach them kindness. That's the most important thing. Teach them of the Jedi way. Now, I know everybody's, that's so lame and lame. No, you know what? Still, kids should feel safe when they go to school. And these bullies out there, man, I know they exist in every walk of life. I know that it happens all the time, Tim, but somebody's just got to put the boot down on these sons of bitches and put them away. Although, you get them into juvie and things like that, probably only makes their lives start to go even worse.
See, that's the thing. You do get them in the system, and they end up in the system for quite a long time. There's
yeah, but in the interim, the kids at school are safe, and they don't have to worry about getting their asses handed to them for no reason, And just because you're a good kid who refuses to fight, that was my issue, man. My dad scared the hell out of me growing up, and he said, "I don't want to have to come pick you up after school because you were fighting." So don't make me have to come to school. So I would rather get my ass kicked than have my dad get pissed off at me because he had to come to school after, late after school to pick me up for fighting. So you just never know the person's situation.
Yeah, I hear you. I guess on my, I don't know, on mine, I was, it wasn't that I was scared to fight. I'd get such an adrenaline rush that I'd lose my mind. I couldn't move. It was like a fight or flight type deal.
Timmy want to kill.
I
Timmy
did.
Want to crush.
I did. I got so hyped with adrenaline. I was afraid of what I would do. So yeah.
All right. Where are we off to now?
We go to Mexico, where a bizarre moment happens where a 3-year-old girl repeatedly calls a priest a whore while he is trying to baptize her in Mexico. It's a bizarre moment. This is a moment where a 3-year-old girl repeatedly calls a priest a whore as he's trying to baptize her. Footage shows smiling parents holding baby Magdalena over the font at a church in Mexico as a priest pours holy water on her head. The ceremony takes a turn for the worse as the priest begins to utter the traditional words, "I baptize you in the name of the Son and the Father," and in scenes which some churchgoers compared to the horror film The Exorcist, Magdalena starts swearing and struggling. To her parents' dismay, she mutters the word whore, puto in Spanish. Sorry to my Spanish friends out there. Hey,
you're just quoting the story. You're not calling people that.
Right, I'm not calling anybody names. But the priest...
As far as we know.
Well, maybe I took a shot at somebody there. But the priest seems to take it in his stride. "I think she's calling me some rude words," he laughs, before resuming the christening with the words, "I am the Father." But the toddler immediately interrupts, shouting, "Leave me alone, you whore," before repeatedly shouting the same word, undeterred by her mother's attempts to control her. When the ceremony, conducted in an undisclosed location in Mexico, is finally over, the mother apologizes to the priest. The video is being viewed by 3 million times after it was posted on social media and video sharing platforms in Mexico. Some online commentators praised the girl's spirit, while others blamed the child's parents for her robust vocabulary.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can play the audio. Because, first of all, you kind of want to think that what's happening, right, is that it's going to sound all, no, puto, right?
Right.
And it's not. It's just the cutest little voice ever. Only she's saying just horrific things. She's like, puto. It just sounds so very bizarre. But it's, I don't know if I can get the audio on this, Tim. I'm doing this old school here, boy.
Matt Lundeen is our local leader.
He is our local leader, isn't he?
That's weird that's the audio
well,
that comes out.
He's straight from Satan as well. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know. Where is the original video for this? This This was, I had it here, and then all of a sudden, this Puto video just vanished on me, Tim.
Maybe Satan doesn't want to make himself
she's
known.
just so cute. She's just so cute. I just want to snuggle her. Puto. Yeah. I don't know. We'd have to get through this commercial for your local leader, Matt Lundeen, Tim.
And he's running to represent our community.
He really is. Yeah.
Matt
He's out
Lundeen
there.
grew up in our community and is a housing.
He threw up in our community?
Yeah, he grew up in our community.
Oh, I thought he threw up in it. Oh, my God. I was going to say, he just belched all over, and he probably... Yeah, one too many beers, and he probably right there in the gutter. And,
well, then I can respect that, Tim. That was much like our life growing up.
It was, but I'm just saying he should really, hold himself to a higher level. I mean, rather than just puking his guts out in our community.
Don't. All right, hold on now. I think we're finally at the point, Tim, where we can listen to children swear in Spanish. Right. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right, here's the story, if we can get to it. Ready?
Yep.
And I love the headline on it. Hilarious video shows 3-year-old girl calling a priest a whore. Maybe their version of hilarious and mine are slightly different, but...
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. They're getting ready to put her head over the font.
Eso no le dice el padre. Eso no le dice el padre. No, va a salir ese chango, va a salir el chango ya. No digas eso pues.
And then the priest dunks her head under the water.
Yeah, she definitely knows what she's saying.
And I love that the priest is like,
one kid under the water. Yeah, they
so
definitely...
you could hear her, right? She's all cute. Oh no, puto! Oh no, puto! But the mom keeps leaning in and slapping the mouth. No. And the priest is cracking up as this kid just continues to call her puto. But it does make you wonder, right? I mean, all right. Even if the kid hears naughty language at home. Mm-hmm. It's weird because in every horror movie, right? The demons always end up calling the priest like a whore or, referring to that was a weird piece of video in that fact. But she's just like the cutest little thing.
No.
And then when she really starts going, that's when the priest looks at her and then just bloop, shoves her whole head under the water for a second. Just drown the demon out of her, priest. All right. Where are we off to next, Tim?
We're off to a story where paranormal investigators are left shocked as they hear a ghostly voice in the exact spot where inmates were executed at a UK's most haunted prison. I don't want to die is the quote. Two expert...
I think we have some audio of that. Hold on.
We do. No, that's from the other story.
Are you sure? That sounds like it might be UK for ghost, get out, I don't want to die.
It might be.
Pluto. Maybe she just has a dog named Pluto at home and just can't say the L's, Tim. I don't know.
Maybe they're looking forward to Pluto TV, Dave. It
could be.
Yeah, it's
good point.
Yeah, maybe it was completely misunderstood.
Could be.
Yeah.
All right.
Two expert ghost hunters had a fright when they received a terrifying message from the dead during a visit to Shepton Mallet Prison in Somerset, which first opened in the 1600s. The spooky grounds, which even housed the Cray twins, played host to Paranormal Lockdown TV hosts Katrina Weidman and Nick Groff for 72 hours, paying their first visit to the UK from the US for the third series of the show. There are countless stories from those who have dared visit England's most haunted prison, which is now a tourist attraction after closing in 2013, with sightings of a lady in white, disembodied voices, and even child spirits. In the first episode of the new series, which airs on Quest Red, Katrina and Nick are shocked when they hear a female voice whisper, "I don't want to die," in the middle of the night, in the spot where prisoners were executed. Even 4 centuries of operating as a prison, there have been paranormal encounters within the prison, with many believing that the spirits of the thousands who died and were buried on the ground are still there. The pair spent 3 days holed up in the Somerset prison, sleeping in the crumbling cells and in the exact spot where inmates were executed. After spending hours scanning the grounds to try and make contact with the spirit world, it wasn't until well into the third day that they began a conversation with an apparent ghost. They set up a communication system and began to get knocks and bangs in response to their yes or no questions. I'm blown away by this experience. We know now that there's something here with us and responding directly to our questions. We have a telephone to the dead and something is communicating with us, Nick said. Katrina gushed, I'm in a state of shock at this point because there's such a clear contact, and as an investigator, this is the sort of stuff that your dreams are made out of. Things only got spookier when through their geoport.
For the record, my dreams usually include Kate Beckinsale, Tim.
Oh, well, mine don't go far from the story. Things only got spookier when through their geoport box, a piece of technology which is used for spirit communication, they claimed to hear a voice confessing to being a thief. Stood directly over the trap. Yes, that's exactly the voice I heard. Stood directly above the trapdoor where inmates were hanged. Katrina and Nick were stunned to then hear clearly a female voice who called herself Cassandra say, I don't want to die. The pair both gasped in shock as they admitted, we never experienced that before. This spirit clearly bypassed the sound banks on the device, and we heard a clear tonal voice coming through. Katrina added, I've never heard a voice this clear come through on Geoport. It sounds like you were talking to somebody over the telephone, and it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Blah, 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 blah. There you go. It just said, I don't want to die, and when you hear a voice like that, your heart just drops. The pair were given a tour by their guide, Paul, who revealed his own shocking encounter. He claims to have been haunted by a prisoner called Private Lee Davies, who had shot dead one woman and raped another. He had been sentenced to death at Shepton Mallet. Paul recounted the prisoner's last words, oh my God, I am going to die, to a group of tourists, and at that moment he felt a pain on his left hand. He had what appeared to be a cigarette burn, which left a scar. When I started working here, I didn't even believe anything like that, and that's why I don't tell people straight away, because they're going to think I'm completely mad, he told Katrina and Nick. Throughout their 72-hour stay, the duo also appeared to see shadow figures of a woman in white and hear hissing noises as bricks crumbled down in one jail cell. There's also a background on Shepton Mallet prison, but we won't go into that at this time. So there you go.
All right, what's our next story?
Next story is about a ghost hunter who claims an image shows a 6-foot hooded monk holding a crucifix on a paranormal investigation at a ruined abbey. The investigators had no idea how close the spirit appears to have come to them at Roche Abbey in Maltby, South Yorks, until they found terrifying photos the morning after. Paranormal investigator Kyle Thompson was stunned when he went through footage from his visit to Roche Abbey in Maltby, South Yorks, because he believes he caught the towering apparition on camera. The figure is difficult to spot, but it can be found in a shadowy doorway near the back of the picture. The ghost hunter claims the picture shows a 6-foot-tall cloaked and hooded figure holding a cross, similar to ones used during mass celebrations. Kyle said that during the trip with pal Jason Unsworth and cameraman James Smith, he didn't feel much paranormal activity, and it was only when he looked over the film that he spotted the outline. Kyle from Barnsley, South York, said it was a strange investigation as we didn't feel much happening. We saw balls of light with the naked eye and shadows, but apart from that, nothing. We thought it was going to be a quiet night, so we left after a couple of hours. Soul Reaper Paranormal founder Kyle was amazed when he reviewed the footage the following day and saw the tall figure standing so close to them. 30-year-old warehouse worker Kyle said, as soon as I looked at the footage, I could see the figure. It looks like a monk whose arms are folded and holding a cross in the air. It was bizarre, but I didn't feel threatened. It wasn't a malicious presence. I think maybe he was trying to show us it was a safe place to be. He could also have been showing us they are seeing the place as it once was. What interested us about the grounds is that they're believed to be haunted by a few different spirits, with monks spotted hanging around an old gatehouse. He says, when I last visited about 2 years ago, it felt strange and like something was there. This time it just felt really peaceful, he went on to say. Founded in the 12th century as a Forget it. Roche Abbey was once home to 50 monks and 100 lay brothers. During the dissolution of the monasteries in 1538, Henry VIII ordered many religious buildings to be dismantled. However, some of the Gothic elements at Roche Abbey survived. There you go. We move on with a story where a man has been charged with firing a gun at a ghost. A self-described paranormal investigator is facing charges after firing a gun at a masked intruder that he later conceded could have been a ghost. This according to state police. 25-year-old Christian J. DeVoe of 71 Old Post Road was arrested Friday following a motor vehicle stop in Vernon, where officers found there was a warrant for his arrest. He was later charged with illegal discharge of a firearm, making a false statement to police, second-degree reckless endangerment, misusing an emergency call, and disorderly conduct. According to an affidavit supporting his arrest, DeVoe dialed 911 early in the morning of July 26th to report that a man wearing a hooded sweatshirt and a mask and holding a rifle had broken into his home. While still on the line with dispatchers, DeVoe could be heard yelling, "Hey!" and firing 2 shots in an apparent attempt to scare off the intruder, this according to troopers. Investigators who arrived at DeVoe's home, however, said they found no evidence that his residence had been broken into or that the mysterious man described in the 911 call was anywhere to be found. A trained dog failed to pick up a scent in the area, this according to the affidavit, and a canvass of the street turned up nothing suspicious. In addition, neighbors said they did not hear or see anything that morning that would have raised an alarm, except for the 2 gunshots fired by DeVoe. Troopers also found problems with DeVoe's sworn statement, where he described firing the 2 bullets as warning shots that he intentionally aimed over the intruder's head. Investigators found that scenario unlikely, however, after a ballistic analysis showed that 2 bullets had punctured a wall in DeVoe's home less than 3 feet off the floor. After state police uncovered even more inconsistencies, including shell casings discovered in front of DeVoe's supposed firing location, DeVoe told troopers that there are some things he just can't explain, like seeing ghosts. DeVoe then told state police that he had been a paranormal investigator for 5 or 6 years and most recently encountered an apparition at the former Mansfield Training School and Hospital, this according to investigators. DeVoe said that while he did not want to be considered insane, he had to allow for the possibility that the intruder was of supernatural origin. When a trooper, when a trooper at the scene asked DeVoe if they could both agree that no one had been in DeVoe's house earlier that morning and that he may have seen a ghost, DeVoe replied, "It had to be," according to that warrant. State police said DeVoe had made a strikingly similar report about a phantom home invader back in 2011. In that incident, DeVoe reported that he had heard a loud bang and found a stranger in his home. A canvass of the area also turned up nothing on that incident. DeVoe was released after posting $5,000 bond and is expected to appear at Vernon Superior Court on September 11th.
It must have been a ghost. Could have been that elusive chupacabra, too. He's been kind of a dick lately.
Well, yeah. He's on a spree.
All right, where are we up to next, Tim?
Well, this story has to do with a mother and daughter who face off with a paranormal experience. They recorded on camera, but it's being argued that they can't decide whether it's aliens or if it's something else. A popular conspiracy theory, the Hidden Underbelly 2.0, has uploaded an eerie video which narrates the experiences of a mother and daughter who claim to have encountered a paranormal experience in their lives. The conspiracy theory channel reveals that the victim initially shared a Reddit account to share their fearful experience with alleged unknown entities in her house. On Friday, a girl created a Reddit account and Twitter account to seek help. She said she felt she was being observed by all corners and had intruders all around her house and even inside. One day she had a blackout of 14 hours and woke up with a weird brand on her back. Wrote the
Sounds like college life.
Well, yeah, it could be. Yeah, we're weird fraternity deal. Wrote the Conspiracy Theory channel in the video's description. The post made by the woman on Reddit claims that she's not doing this for a marketing campaign, but was concerned about the safety of her daughter. She was really concerned by her daughter's safety, and her post didn't seem like a marketing campaign since she doesn't seem to know how to use Twitter nor Reddit very well. It looked like more like a person desperately seeking help than a person seeking attention, added the Conspiracy Theory channel. To ensure the safety of her daughter, she even installed various CCTV cameras inside her home. In one of the videos released by the woman, her daughter was seen dancing in front of the camera, and she runs across an alien-like figure which appears in the window next to her. Interestingly, the figure appeared behind the window and seemed very similar to that of alien entities often depicted in Hollywood sci-fi flicks. As the video went viral, viewers of The Hidden Underbelly 2.0 put forward various theories explaining the eerie incident. After watching the video, most of the viewers argue that aliens are behind the spooky events, while some spectators believe that these are the work of demonic entities. I don't believe in aliens from outer space, but I do believe in demonic spirits, one person went on to say. Therefore, what one might call aliens may actually be a demonic creature. Our world has become so satanic, and with CERN trying to break through the firmament, no telling what kind of evil they might have let through. The only help she should seek is from God, this YouTube user went on to say. Seek and ye shall find, and the truth will set you free. May peace be with you. This came from Walking Wolf, who is a YouTube user. There you go.
Although that's some sound advice. All right, Dan, next.
No, well, there was one other comment that said from Smiling Woods here. It said, "Holy crap! Well, that was unnerving. Please keep up on this family." That was the last of that story there. Yeah. We move on. Oh boy, kids, hold on to yourselves, and that's meant in the literal sense. Spooked mom believes she has a masturbating ghost living in her house. Boy.
What?
Yeah, and people are convinced there's no other explanation.
Mom, those tissues aren't mine. I don't know where they came from. It's got to be a ghost.
Oh, boy, how would you like to run into this? Mm-hmm. The woman's partner came across a mysterious wet patch in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm.
Monsturbation? Is that what we're talking about here?
I think so, yeah. That's not something just eerie in the closet. That's just freaky in the closet. From a mysterious bump in the night to an eerily squeaky door. Go ahead.
I don't even try. Go on.
We've all convinced ourselves. So that's what I was looking for. We've all convinced ourselves our homes are haunted at one point or another, right? Well, now one woman has blown...
literally
all our ordinary fears out of the water by claiming her house is being haunted by a spunking ghost.
Spunky, yes, that's like the English equivalent of ejaculation.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll be happy to I'll be happy to translate English for you, Tim.
Thank you. Yes, I read that correctly. Taking to Mumsnet to share her bizarre dilemma. I'm going to Mumsnet more often on the internet. The anonymous user described how her partner was woken up at around 1 a.m. the night before because he heard their squeaky bedroom door open. So far, so conventionally spooky. But because he was expecting our nocturnal darling son to tap him on the shoulder, announcing that he had a bad dream, the couple didn't immediately stir. When he heard the bedroom door close again, the woman's partner then got out of bed and went to check on their son. But instead of coming across his frightened child in the hallway, the parent was instead greeted by a large wet patch in the middle of the floor. Right there. Booyah.
A large wet patch? That's not ectoplasm. So the ghost, obviously a little pent up after years of no release, Tim.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Yikes.
It says here, we know what you're thinking. Surely the logical conclusion would be the scared little boy had an accident on the landing or the dog simply urinated in the house. That would be
logical.
That's very logical. Yeah.
But let's just jump right to masturbating ghosts.
Right, because, I mean, what else could it be?
Right. Makes more sense than the logical? I don't know.
Well, here we go, Dave. Here's the explanation. Here's the breakdown, if you will.
Okay.
However, the user's partner then found their son fast asleep, all tucked in his duvet, while the dog was also fast asleep in the living room.
What?
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
naturally, the mother has come up with the only explanation she could think of.
Uh-huh. Masturbating ghost.
Couple have a spunking ghost on their hands.
About like a leaky ceiling,
No,
leaky floorboards.
could be.
Uh-huh.
Nah, they just got
It could be that the dog peed earlier and then was already asleep.
No, they got a wanking ghost, Dave.
A wanking ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Unsurprisingly, the Post has divided
Really?
opinion.
Unsurprisingly,
Yeah, has a divided opinion on the parenting forum. While one insists that the child or dog got caught short on the landing, then went back to bed, others suggest that the users smell the wet patch to decipher exactly what it is.
Wasn't that the name of Spinal Tap's
Yes,
album?
it was
Smell the Wet
Smell
Patch?
the Wet Patch, yeah. It was a great album. One user wrote, definitely a spunking ghost marking his territory, no other explanation.
Yes, let's just keep encouraging that.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
Definitely a spunking ghost.
yes.
No diggity, no doubt, y'all.
No need to put your finger in it and taste it. Just give on and assume.
Oh, God.
Meanwhile, others were quick to accuse the partner for the mysterious substance and suggested he had been the one who had an accident. That's not a bad, not a bad theory.
Yeah.
But the user who ranks first place for their imaginative reasoning is the person who insists her darling partner is having an affair with said ghost.
Oh,
nice.
This
Way
is
to-
taking a dark turn.
Way to turn that one around. They explained they got a bit frisky, and he's brought it up first to try and cover his back, just in case you saw the cleanup operation. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Advising...
I can't condone that. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. You're so air-like. Advising the mother got her ducks in a row, the user said she shouldn't bother.
What is with all the sexy ghost stories lately?
I don't know.
Are we that bad in our culture nowadays that getting laid we have to go to the spiritual side in order to get a little nookie?
I think so, yeah. I'm pretty sure, yeah. Ghostfinder.com. Advising the mother get her ducks in a row, the user said she shouldn't bother checking his
I'm
phone.
swiping right now to the left.
Yeah, okay. Shouldn't bother checking his phone. You got all the proof you need. It sounds about right, yeah. So there you go. And even more Mumsnet news. This woman finds text branding her a stupid bee and a lazy cow on her mother-in-law's phone while they're on holiday together.
We did that story, yeah.
Yeah, that's...
we did that a while back, but that wasn't paranormal. That was just a bitchy mother-in-law.
Yeah, interesting stuff. It's a funky, spunky
I gave you
ghost.
one more story. I actually gave you two, but skip the one and just go to the last story. That's the better version of it.
I got it right here. A Denham Springs woman sets her couch on fire to get the devil out, booked on one count of arson. A Denham Springs woman was arrested on one count of simple arson on Friday after she set her couch on fire to get the devil out. 53-year-old Jo Lynn Wynn, nice rhyming name, was taken into custody at the Livingston Parish Detention Center after an investigation by the Louisiana Office of the State Fire Marshal. Bond was set at $125,000. Livingston Parish Fire Protection...
What? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So let's revisit the fact that a few weeks ago, there was a compound where they killed a child for witchcraft, training other children to murder. They were out on $20,000 bail. This chick set her demonic couch on fire, and she's $125,000 bond?
They're out completely now, Dave. You didn't see the latest, did you?
Yeah, I did, but I'm just saying that's $125,000 for setting a couch on fire.
Yeah, for setting the couch.
$20,000 for murder and allegedly murder and training kids to kill.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've said this before, but
Couches are comfy though, Dave.
Yeah, that is true. We can't have people just running around willy and nilly lighting up couches.
Right. You got it. Livingston Parish Fire Protection District 4 sought investigation from the OSFM after the blaze in the 11,000 block of Arnold Road. Wynn was suffering from smoke inhalation when firefighters arrived. She was treated at a local hospital before the investigation began. The fire began in the living room of her mobile home. Investigators concluded that the fire started on the couch, which she confessed to setting ablaze.
Yeah, but it was to get rid of the demons, Tim.
Yeah. Well, you got to do that. I
don't know why they got to put her away for that kind of money.
You fight fire with fire.
All right, well, that's it. Is that what you do?
Yeah, you fight fire with fire.
Listen, tomorrow, Mark Stavish joins us on the show to talk about poltergeists and possessions, Tim. And we had a very strange encounter. I had him on Midnight in the Desert about 2 weeks ago. We had some really weird stuff go down. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. And we just had Mark last night on Midnight in the Desert. He came back to return for the show that we couldn't do 2 weeks ago because of the paranormal shenanigans that took place. And interesting, we did egregores last night. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about poltergeist and possession, so make sure you tune in and check it out. I think you guys are going to dig it. Plus, there's a brand new Theater of the Mind from me, your buddy, Darkness Dave, and our good friend Jeff Belanger. This is one of those rare cases where we shared this experience, and we can actually talk about it in public, Tim. So that's in tomorrow's Theater of the Mind. It's fun, it's weird, it's bizarre, so make sure you tune in and check that out. We have to take a break. We'll be back with more of the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness.
Beyond the Darkness.
Welcome back. This is the best in paranormal talk radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, along with me, Tim Dennis. And tomorrow, Mark Stavish will be with us, Tim. We're going to talk about the paranormal, poltergeists, and possession on the show. And, this is a weird story. A weird set of circumstances have taken place to get the show together. And we'll talk about that at the beginning of the show tomorrow night. So I hope people will check it out and tune in for that. Plus, we have a brand new Theater of the Mind. So make sure you're here for that as well. It's time now, Tim, for Parashare. Are you ready? We'll share some of your favorite stories that have been emailed in to us. Listen, call in and be a part of our Beyond voicemail. We want to hear you, voices from Beyond, your stories. We're collecting some of them. I'll be out of town next week, so Tim is going to incorporate quite a few of the different calls we've gotten into Parashare next week. And if you've got a paranormal experience and you'd like to share it, whether it's UFO, ghosts, cryptid, Ouija board stories, psychic phenomena, an angel encounter, funny, scary, happy, sad, we want to hear from you. 651-300-4977. 651-300-4977. And you can call in. You can leave a nice long voicemail. It takes about 3 minutes is what they'll lock in. So if you record 3 minutes and there's still more of the story to tell, just call right back and finish telling your tale. Tim can edit them together and put it together. So when you call back in, just take a deep breath and then go right back into where you were in the story. Otherwise, if you've got a story you can contain to 3 minutes, even better. You can give us a call for Voices from Beyond, 651-300-4977. That's 651-300-4977. And how would you like to win $500 of Tim's hard-earned money?
What?
I would love to win $500 of his hard-earned money. That's right. I'm robbing from the rich to give to the poor. Out of Tim's money, it only seems fair because it's for true crime. If you subscribe right now to our True Crime Tuesday podcast, or you've already been a subscriber, as long as you maintain your membership all the way through to January 1st, 2019, you are being automatically entered into a drawing to win $500 of Tim's money. How about that? I love giving to these people, Tim. Tim, I love our people so much, I'm willing to take money out of your hard-earned coffers to give away to others.
Well, that hardly seems fair, Dave. I mean,
Tim, it's better to give than to receive. So let me give them your money and receive their love in return.
But, Dave, I mean, that's my 401k. I mean,
that's all right, Tim. We've got plenty of time. You should be able to retire in maybe 30 to 40 years at our current rate. So don't worry about it. You'll be able to earn that $500 back in another 17 to 18 years of steady savings, my friend, steady radio savings. So let's do this. Go right now to darknessradio.com, click on that True Crime Tuesday banner and subscribe. Maintain your membership all the way through to January 1st. That's for all of our subscribers that already listen to the show and for all of you new subscribers. If you do that, you are automatically entered into that drawing, and around the first of the new year, we'll do that drawing, and you could win $500. Go to patreon.com/True Crime Tuesday, and you can subscribe directly there, or just go to Beyond the Darkness, or darknessradio.com rather, and click on the True Crime Tuesday banner to make it even easier. Let's get into some of the stories here, Tim. Our very first story begins with a bit of sarcasm, I believe, Tim. Hello, Bob and Tom.
What?
Ha ha ha. That's what it says. I'm just joking. Hi, Dave and Tim, Tim and Dave. If you don't read this on air, that's okay, but it would really mean a lot to me if you could at least answer my questions whenever you get the time. Well, let's do this, Tim. Let's read the questions and the story and share it all right here. What do you think about that?
I like it. All right.
All right. Okay. First off, I'd like to say that I'm so thankful for your show. I think it started listening back in 2016, but I'm not sure. I know the first episode I ever listened to was your show on Flat Earth, because at the time I was working a 10 to 12 hour job that I didn't like, and it kept me from my, at the time, brand new baby girl. It helped me through the long, boring days. Oh, yeah. The reason I started with that episode was because a friend I had made while working said job was a flat earther that I loved to give a hard time to. But eventually he wore me down to a bit of my own research. It didn't change my mind, but it was definitely intriguing. Now, I've always had an open mind about the paranormal, and I guess it's because my parents always shut it down and told me it was dumb and fake. But at a very young age, I was very fascinated with it, and the older I got, the deeper my fascination grew. That being said, I can't say I believe just yet, but oh my God, do I really, really, really want to believe? And sadly, nothing paranormal ever happened to me. That is until today, August 28th, 2018, around 8:20 p.m., my birthday. Now, I could be wrong, but what I thought might have been a UFO could quite possibly be just a meteor burning up, coming straight at me from my perspective. But on the other hand, it could have been a UFO. It was brilliant orange light and grew in size before flickering to fade out. And at that last second, it looked like it shot straight up before vanishing. Now, the odd thing to me is that it was about just below it on the horizon, I saw an aircraft, which isn't odd because we live in a military flight path. And this sucker was hauling ass, with now sound coming out of it. Now, I'm no expert, but I'm insanely passionate about aviation, so much so that I know what most military aircraft sound like at a distance and what different types of sounds they make as they move through the sky. This was silent, but who knows? I could just be crazy. I did leave my tinfoil hat inside that day. Either it was some kind of cool birthday gift from the cosmos or something. Now, for two questions I have about a possible ghost sightings. Well, first of all, I don't know where you're located. There was a huge meteor or asteroid or whatever that was seen, and it was giant and orange and flashed, and it was seen in Australia. So if you're from Australia, that may be what you caught. Now it says, now for my two questions I have about possible ghost sightings I might have had as a kid. I lost my grandfather when I was 12 to a sudden heart attack at the age of 52. Much too young in my mind. It absolutely ruined me. He was my father figure for my first 4 years of my life, and my best friend after my mom found the man I get to call Dad. Even though typing this is holding back tears, because at 25 years old I can tell I still struggle with him being gone. But enough about that sad stuff. Oh, quick side note, listening to you talk about your mom and how you've gotten through it has helped me in a few ways with the loss of my grandfather and brother, so thank you very much for that. Only a few days after my grandfather died, my mother and I stayed at my grandparents' house to help my grandpa or grandma out with the funeral arrangements. The night before the funeral, my mom asked me to go downstairs into the basement to get her toiletries. My grandparents' basement was finished and had a half bath and a full bedroom. The rest of it was my grandfather's office. Now, I was a little spooked to go down, but I did it anyway. but I didn't make it far because as I reached the bottom of the steps, I heard whistling and typing on the keyboard of his computer. And while talking loud typing, and we're talking loud typing because this was the days of Windows 95 and that keyboard was loud, I froze. And as I froze, the whistling stopped. The typing stopped. And then I heard, but didn't see, his desk chair turn around. That's when my brain said, nope. And I flew up the stairs to tell my mom what just happened. She didn't believe me and made me go back down there. Thankfully, nothing happened the second time. Like I said, I love all things paranormal and have had a pretty open mind to it. So as much as I'd love to go on one of your trips to haunted locations, I'm just scared. And I wouldn't be as mentally strong to not let something in or get attached to me, then end up bringing it home and subjecting my wife and daughter to it. One night, my parents went out on a date when I was probably 13 or 14, and I had the house to myself to do what I do since the parents were gone. Watch everything I'm not allowed to watch, of course. So after a few episodes of Ghost Adventures, the phone rings. And to date myself a little, the landline phone rings. So I go back to my parents' room. Wait a minute, did he just say to date himself, and yet he's watching Ghost Adventures, Tim?
Yeah.
Which has been on for, I think, 10 years now. You're not really dating yourself. No, when Tim and I talk about landlines, we're talking about hung up on the wall rotary phones with a cord. That's dating yourself, my friend, my young, impressionable friend.
And rotary dial, not push button.
Jimmy, I hope I don't date myself by talking about when I began watching Ghost Adventures 10 years ago. Good grief. People are so out of touch, Tim.
I know.
So after a few episodes of Ghost Adventures, the phone rings. And to date myself a little, the landline phone rings. So I go back to my parents' room to get it because, of course, the one in the kitchen is dead. Now, all the lights are out because, well, how else are you supposed to watch spooky stuff? Or as he put, spoopy stuff. Again, just try, my friends. Just try that little spell check. It works wonders. But I do like the word spoopy, Tim. S-P-O-O-P-Y. What else are you supposed to do when you watch spoopy stuff, Tim? But do it in the dark. As I walk down our hallway, I pass the bathroom. The bathroom door was open. And the first thing you see as you walk in is the mirror. So you can see the mirror from the hall as you pass it. Now, as I passed it, I swear to God, I saw my grandfather in the mirror from the corner of my eye, pissed as hell at me. So, of course, I slam on the brakes and tear off back down the hall to the safety of the couch and let the answering machine take the call. After all, it's not my job. Now, my other story is about how I had never dreamed about my grandfather since he passed. At this point, I was in high school and had a dream one night that my mom and I had had a dream one night that my mom and I had met he and my grandfather at a restaurant for dinner celebrating my birthday. Now, I know how to lucid dream. I figured it out at an early age because I realized I could manipulate my dreams to rerun the previous day's run-in with bullies to try to get better outcome that I could live with or possibly better prepare myself for the next day's encounter with them. I was bullied a lot, so I got creative trying to cope with it and protect myself. And what I remember most about this dream with him was that all around us in the parking lot of the restaurant was a thick, dense white fog. And I could see my mother and grandmother's faces clearly, except for his. I could even see myself and my face in a third-person view. I was just a little kid. I was a snot-nosed 8-year-old Kyler, but it broke my heart that I couldn't see his face. And I remember asking him why, and he told me that that's just the way it is now. And then he picked me up and hugged me, and just like that, hugged me just like he used to when I was that age. And I lost it. I bawled my eyes out and begged him to come back and that I didn't want him to go. I just wanted 5 more minutes, but sadly he told me in his deep, strong voice, I'd love to, but the work never ends and I have things to take care of. And then he put me down, and as my feet hit the ground, I woke up, pissed as all get out because someone or something took him again. Now, I've never told anyone about any of this before because most of my friends and family don't believe in much of this stuff, but it feels nice to get it down on paper or computer screen. So, would you say the first 2 are ghost encounters and the last one was a dream visitation? I'm really sorry for how long this is, but I wanted to type it correctly. Should have used spell check. And easily legible for you. I use using spell check, it would have been. Punctuation and all, ha ha ha. Yes, punctuation was fine. The paragraphs was great, but use spell check. Even if this doesn't make the show, I still love you guys and would just love to hear what you think. I think you need to use spell check. Well, thanks again, all the way from Podunk, Kansas. Blue skies, and have a good one. That comes from Kyler. That takes him out of Australia, so he didn't see a UFO from Australia, Tim. Unless it flew over quickly and then dodged down to Australia. I'm not sure how that whole thing works. Yeah, it sounds like you had paranormal experiences to me. I'd put them right in those categories. And the dream visitation, here's an interesting thing I just heard recently for people that said that they've seen a loved one in a dream, but the face is not coming through clearly. Maybe it's because that person has now reincarnated and they have a new face.
Oh, interesting.
Right? So they can't reveal what they look like now. And if they revealed that face, they wouldn't look like your grandfather.
Interesting.
So that makes it even more impressive to me. Well done, Kyler. In Podunk, Kansas, who doesn't know how to use spell check. But I appreciate the paragraphs and all of the great punctuation, even though there's no spell check. Hi, Dave. Hi, Tim. Hugs for both of you. That's how this email starts. Imagine my surprise as I was listening to Parashare and my Chillingham Castle story came up. Glad you guys liked the story enough to read it twice now, over once on Darkness on the Edge of Town and now on Beyond the Darkness. I feel all special. You guys might give me a complex if you keep that up. You probably sent it to us more than once, because some people do that, Tim. They think, oh, well, you haven't read it, I'll just resend it. So you're not special. Not at all. Wow. Not special. Don't get a big head. Wow. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you very much. You're very special. And yes, we love that story so much that we decided to read it twice, because she used spell check. Imagine my surprise, though. As I mentioned, in that very same letter that you read for Parashare, I did a tour of Scotland and England for 3 weeks last year, from the Isle of Skye to the streets of London. We traveled, but the one place that we traveled to that I feel like you'll be most interested in is the Edinburgh Vaults, Tim. It was cool and cloudy that day in Edinburgh, with some scattered rain to be had. In Scotland, though, that's what we call a good weather day. My family and I did a walking tour through the city of Edinburgh. I'm going to dislocate my vulva if I have to keep saying that, and down underneath into the vaults beneath the city. As opposed to the climate outside, once you made your way into the vaults, it was surprisingly warm, although it was dark, and the only light source was the gleam of flashlights and the soft glow of the warm candles that adorned each room. We walked through each room and paused to hear the history and tales of the paranormal from our guides. And while we're taking pictures of our experience, it was the last room we toured that is perhaps the most infamous. This particular room doesn't seem any different than the ones that we had previously been in, except for one detail. The walls of this room were completely white, as if they had been pressure washed. The tour guides told the story of the infamous specter they call Mr. Boots, that supposedly declared this white-walled room as his own, and he didn't like people, living or dead, disturbing him. I didn't feel anything initially, but even when our tour guide blew out the candle she was holding and delved us into darkness for several minutes. As the majority of the tour bustled out of the vaults and towards the next destination, I lingered behind for a moment in the room. I lingered to take just a couple of photographs, and it was now, when I was mostly alone, that I felt I really wasn't. I managed to get 2 pictures of the room, one with flash on, the other right after it without the flash. Now, what's strange about this is I never adjusted my camera settings. When taking flash pictures, there is a part of my camera that pops up specifically for the flash. I took 2 pictures in succession to each other, and the sections picture ain't chick, Tim. So I guess spell check doesn't matter if my mouth doesn't want to work.
Nope.
I took 2 pictures in succession to each other, and the second picture I took, although the flash was still on, the light did not go off when it should have. It wasn't until later that I remembered the apparition of Mr. Boots apparently doesn't like the light being shown in his face. What I captured in the darkened room with my flash on but was not working, I believe is the face of, well, someone. I'd love to say it was Mr. Boots that I captured. It sounds like somebody's cat, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's not conclusive. I remember feeling a slight chill as I stood in an all-white walled room that day and had the feeling that someone wanted me to get on with it and get out, so to speak, And that's just what I did. So this is my story of Edinburgh Vaults. I'll attach photos for you to peruse at your leisure. Thank you both for your wonderful selves and doing the amazing things you do. This world is definitely a brighter place with the two of you in it, and I mean that. Take care of yourselves. Love and light from the realm of Florida, man. That comes from Kirsty in Orlando. Now, don't you feel bad of telling her she's not special at the beginning of that story, Tim?
I didn't.
Shame on you.
Shame
on you. Tim, don't interrupt me. I'm in the middle of talking.
Oh, sorry.
Dear Sirs, Timothy and David.
Wow.
What?
We're knights.
What? But you came first.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what she said. I've had a possible paranormal experience that you may find interesting. My first experience took place in a very old house on one of the original brick roads in a small Kansas town. I can't tell you if anything happened there, but I do know the house was built in 1900, so it has to have some history. About 10 years ago, when I was a youngin' in high school, my dad married my stepmom, and we moved into the aforementioned house. Ooh, big words, Tim. This house is definitely creepy. It had your usual old house sounds, and the basement was a very small room that was probably 4.5 feet tall with natural stone for the walls and looked like a stereotypical torture room. Well, how many torture rooms have you seen that you can call them stereotypical? While living there, Kansas is a scary place, Tim.
Yeah.
While living there, my stepmom had mentioned that she had been unable to grow any house plants, save for a bamboo plant that never grew any larger nor sprouted any more leaves. I don't think anything of it at the time, but once she had moved into a new house, she was able to grow several plants, and they've been thriving for years now. Ooh, I hate plant-eating ghosts, Tim. Yep. They bought their new house when I was in college and decided to rent the old house to my stepbrother and I. I attempted to grow several plants there, but all of them died about a week after being brought into the house. This included an adult Venus flytrap, which are said to be fairly hardy plants. That means they're hard to kill, Tim.
Oh, right.
I tried to research what I was doing wrong, as this was the second unfortunate Venus flytrap that I'd owned in this house, but I couldn't find anything that would cause its ultimate demise. This makes me think it's environmental, Tim. Maybe black mold, Texas tea. I don't know. I hadn't thought anything of it until my dog started losing weight. He was quite overweight when we moved in, and at first I figured it was just due to the lack of table scraps that he'd been given while we lived at my mom's. But he lost weight at an alarming rate. He had been wormed regularly, and I don't think that the move had affected him, as we had moved several times before. Although I was glad to see him getting back to a smaller size, I was concerned. We moved out before he got too skinny, thankfully. He also barked a lot, which is normal for a Chihuahua mix, but he usually barked at things outside from the window or the door. In the house, however, he barked at nothing and directed his yips and yaps towards the windowless kitchen hallway. He would stop and give me the same look he usually has when someone is at the door, a very excited look. This is when I started to think maybe there's something here. I asked both my brother and my sister if anything weird had happened to them in the house, and they both had something to tell. My brother said one night while he was in bed, he saw a light. A light, Tim. He saw a light.
Chilling.
He thought nothing of it and said it looked like car lights going down the street, but he realized later that his bedroom had no windows. How long do you live in a room and realize it doesn't have windows?
Pretty long time, actually.
It was on the side of the house. Now, he says, things sometimes mess with me, so I don't know whether or not to believe him. My sister told me that one night, before our parents had started renting us the house, she had heard someone laughing in the bathroom. That would be paranormal, Tim. I'm trying to think of any time I've been in the bathroom where I found myself laughing. Nope, can't think of one. Not a one. She went and asked my dad, who was in the living room at the time, who else was there. And he had no idea what she was talking about. The only ghostly thing I personally experienced was a noise. I worked until late at night, and one night after I had gotten home at around 3 or 4 in the morning, I heard a weird tapping sound coming from the kitchen hallway. I was in the kitchen doing dishes, and I was the only one in the house at the time. This was shortly after talking about the possibility of a presence in the house. And I'd read while researching in that spirits will sometimes become more powerful or more daring after being acknowledged. So I pretended it just wasn't there, but the tapping continued, Tim. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, 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 doom. Then I finally turned around to see if maybe it was my dog, and I was just being paranoid. but it stopped immediately. This next part is why I'll remain anonymous, even though that makes my story less believable. I don't think so. It just makes you a chicken shit. That's all. Either this thing... I kid. Either this thing was causing bad emotions in us, or these emotions just happened to coincide with us living in the house. I couldn't tell you, but some weird stuff was going on. I don't want to give away too many details about my sister's experience, but I will say it involved another person, theft, and some violence. And things have never been that bad between these two before or after the incident. As for myself, I became severely depressed and anxious when I moved into that house with my brother. My boyfriend at the time almost dumped me because of how bad things had gotten between us. I hated staying alone there, though, and constantly begged him to stay with me. He did quite often, but when he said no, I'd lose it. I'd get so angry I'd hit things until my hands bled. I'd cry hysterically. I'd cut myself badly once. I even had thoughts about killing myself. This went on for about a month, until my brother and I, whom I'd thought never fought with before, got into an argument, and I moved out. Within a few weeks, things were back to normal in my life, my dog and my family. My dog started packing on the pounds immediately, and even though I hadn't changed his diet and even put him on a stricter one, he can't seem to lose the weight again. My brother, who was just jobless and unmotivated back then, now has a great job and a growing family. I got married to the boyfriend, and we just welcomed our own little one into our home. My dad and stepmom are doing great, and so are their plants. Well, Tim, I think you and I need to move into that home and see if we can use the paranormal weight loss diet that they've got in play.
Right.
I don't like plants anyway. Screw plants.
Man.
Who needs to grow plants? Come on, demons, help me shed some weight. The second part of my story is a lot more recent. I live in a duplex of doom now with my husband and daughter. All right, didn't say duplex of doom, but a duplex, Tim, nonetheless. And duplex, Tim, that's a lot like a bunk bed, wouldn't you say? Like one house on top of the other? Just think about it. About 2 weeks ago, I got off work and my daughter was in her swing while I took a quick shower. I do this every day as I work in a factory with chemicals. A few minutes into my shower, I heard what sounded like a kid choking. Although it sounded like an older kid, and my daughter was only about 2 months at the time, I jumped out and ran to my room where her and my husband were. They were both sound asleep. I got back in the shower to rinse off, and I heard the choking sound again. I rushed to her again, but neither of them had moved. I told my mom about it, and she said it was probably from the neighbor or from outside, but I swear it sounded like it was right outside the bathroom door, and I never hear anything from my neighbor's side as we work opposite shifts. One of my friends claims to be a medium, and she said she saw a middle-aged woman hanging around, but she seemed nice. I don't really subscribe to the whole medium thing, but that was interesting to hear. She also suggested that something else may be hanging around us and has been following me since a friend and I performed a drunken seance in the creepy basement of that old house. I don't believe it's the same thing, as I have never been to that dark place again, but rather something else that was called up from the seance. All right, and Tim, the whole idea that she used spell check is out the window now. Sayonce. Or is that seance? Is it like the musician Beyonce, Tim? Is it seance? Is that what she was dealing with?
Either that or it's a new sandwich spread. It's Sayonnaise.
Ooh, seance. I like that. I'm not saying either of these events are for sure ghosts or a haunting, especially since I didn't see anything definitive. I'm also not using it as an excuse for how I or anyone else acted. However, I do believe there was some sort of negative presence in that house, be it a spirit or some kind of ourselves creating it, that drained the life of smaller, weaker things living there and took a huge toll on us as well. Thanks so much for taking your time to share my story. I really enjoy the show and have listened to everything on Google Podcasts, and I'm excited to hear more. I think you guys are doing great and letting people like me share our stories without ridicule. Oops. Oh, much fun, a fan, or much love. And, well, we're not ridiculing you for your story, just your spelling is a seance, Tim. S-A-Y-O-N-C-E.
Sayonnaise, Davids.
Sayonnaise?
Sayonnaise.
Hey, Tim, that sandwich tasted delightful. Did you use new Sayonnaise?
No, I use Siracle Whip, David.
Siracle Whip?
Yeah.
Is that the more flavorful version of Sayonnaise?
It's tangy and has a.
It is.
Yeah.
Dear Dave and Tim. That's the way. I like it, Tim. Dave and Tim. Tim. Suddenly I'm channeling my inner Barney Fife. I'm a huge fan of your show, and I want to thank you for taking the time to read this email. This is from a year ago, so I apologize. I know I could have shared this story with you guys on Parashare, but I also host a paranormal talk show on Monday nights, so the timing would have been off. I run a property out in Mechanicsville, Virginia, that is unlike anything I've ever seen. The activity on this land is off the charts. But first, let me give you a bit of a backstory. Ooh, I like backstories, Tim. Melissa Carol Elliott was a 12-year-old girl living in Mechanicsville, Virginia, on the outskirts of Richmond, Virginia. She was a 7th grader attending a Battlefield Elementary School about a block from her home. She lived with her mom and dad, her 17-year-old brother, Randy Lynn Elliott, a young man of mixed race from a previous marriage. One Friday morning in early October of 1979, Melissa's parents left for work, leaving Randy and Melissa home alone. Now, when Melissa was born, Randy was around 5 years old, so they particularly grew up together. So, what happens next is all the more disturbing. Randy proceeded to rape and murder his 12-year-old sister. He threw her body into a refrigerator box and dragged it 75 to 100 yards into the fields behind the house. Later on that morning, a couple of workers for the family company showed up to do some bush hogging in the field. Bush hogging? What the hell is that? In the fields behind, and that is when they discovered her partially clothed body with 2 gunshot wounds to the chest. My father was called in, since my family owns the property, and had to meet with the police. Randy Lynn Elliott was caught in Lumberton, North Carolina. He had stolen a neighbor's car and was caught trying to steal another one in North Carolina. He is now serving a life sentence in Lunenburg, Virginia. My father recounted the story of the murder that took place at that house when I was younger. I'd always found it fascinating and, of course, very sad. I had been inside that house on numerous occasions, and nothing had really happened to me. But as time went on, I began to get into the paranormal. I joined my first team back in 2013. When they needed a place to do a practice investigation, I suggested the Brick Rancher where the murder took place. This was back in 2014. I was not expecting anything to happen since I had been there on several occasions and did not feel any kind of threat at all. But apparently what happened made the team leader end the investigation early and swear never to go back again. I was going through some personal problems at the time, so I did not really pursue it. Fast forward to this past summer. On a whim, I asked my friend Dennis Estlock if he would be interested in investigating the house on 360 just to see what is out there. He agreed he would go in and check it out with me. So we meet out there during the day early last summer. We're walking around the basement of the house when we both heard a little girl scream in terror, and it sounded as if it was coming from upstairs. So, of course, Dennis and I go to check it out to find out there's nobody in the house except us. Now, it being the summer, I thought maybe it was some of the neighbor kids playing outside, but the scream was not a fun scream. Whoever made that scream was terrified. And thus started what can only be described as a bizarre paranormal event, one after another. I've collected close to 100 EVPs from that place. It's just not the brick house. It is also the log cabin next to it. It is the land itself. There was a Civil War battle that took place on and around that land, and it's called the Battle of Bethesda Church. There's a dark presence inside the basement that reduced a 17-year-old girl to tears. She was scared so much. There is also so much activity on that property that Dennis and I decided to start bringing teams in to investigate. We charge $150 to investigate 3 locations: the brick house, the log cabin, and the woods behind the house. All of the money we collect goes to charity. I think your audience would definitely enjoy hearing about these houses and some of the experiences the teams have had there. You can check out our Facebook page. Just look up the 360 houses. Please let us know if you'd be interested in chatting with us. Ryan C. Jones. I think we actually had Ryan on the show at one point.
I think so too, yeah.
Hi, Dave and Tim. Going back to January of 2017 again for this story, Tim. Listening to the Ghosts Among Us episode, I know I'm behind. I'm trying to catch up. Well, so are we. And I have a creepy seance story for you, spelled S-E with the over it, A-N-C-E, Tim. So he's definitely using spell check. That's S-E-A-N-C-E, seance. I don't know what you call that little over the E, Tim, but it's there. Is that, it's not an umlaut. That's a German thing. Okay. Would you call it an accent? Is that what they call that? The little sound over the top?
Could be an accent, sure.
Yeah. I have a creepy aunts story as well. I've written to you guys a few times, and I'm thinking at this point, maybe it's time for me to write a book about my experiences. Anyway, the paranormal group that I belonged to at the time was doing a fundraiser at this abandoned elementary school. We turned it into a haunted house for the month of October. At the time, we didn't know it, but soon found out it was very haunted. We would hear footsteps on the floor above us when we were the only ones in the building. Various members of the group saw a shadow figure. We would hear kids humming or singing. People in the hall or in the haunted house got touched, and not by us. The list goes on and on. The last night of the haunted house was, of course, October 31st. And after the haunted house closed down, a few members of the group wanted to do the yearly seance, right there, Tim, of trying to contact Harry Houdini. They decided to do it in the basement, which I declined to attend due to an event earlier in the evening. I'll be a tease and save that for another time. No. There was my husband and about 3 other people that attended the seance. They went down into the basement and set up a table and chairs, EMF, K2 detector, digital recorder, 2 cameras pointed at either end of the table. About halfway through the seance, the K2 lit up all the way to the red out of nowhere and pulled a chair by itself from the table. They were so lucky to get it on camera. I kid you not. It looks like a spirit is pulling up a chair to sit at the table. That was one of the many things that turned me into a believer. Keep it spooky, and congrats on 11 years of radio. And that came from Christina. Thank you, Christina. Back in January of 2017. We're working our way back to you, babe. And remember, you can always email us your stories, keeping it real, keeping it live, keeping it now. You can email me, Dave, at darknessradio.com to share your paranormal encounters. I know many of you have been sitting on the fence post about sharing. It's time. Get off your butts. It's easier than ever. You can use paragraphs, punctuation, and spell check now, Tim. That's how far we've gotten in the world. You can use all 3 of those.
Wow.
Do you think I scare people off from sharing because they're afraid I'll mock them?
Yeah, I think you might be coming at it a little too rough.
A little too rough?
Yeah.
Well, it's, but here's the thing. It's hard to read the story sometimes when there's run-on sentences and one giant block story, no paragraphs. And you want to enjoy it. We want to enjoy it. I'm just saying that's one way to make it easier. And spell check helps me so that I don't have to say seance, Tim.
No, well, seance?
Seance, yeah. Either way.
Yeah.
So I love you people. I love your stories. Send them in. Just use spell check. It's free. It's free on almost every computer in the world. Hello again, Dave and Tim. I hope you both enjoyed your New Year's celebration back in January of 2017. I have another story for you, and this one takes the cake. Well, we want some cake. Why didn't we get cake before it took the cake, Tim? This all started on New Year's Day. Me and my boyfriend decided to stay in and watch a few movies for the night. We were in the living room, and I decided to light a few candles to set the mood. A few hours later, around midnight, we went to bed and made sure to blow them all out. Fast forward about 9 hours, and I woke up and went downstairs to let my dogs out, Tim. Well, the answer is finally there, Tim. We now know who let the dogs out. It is Christine from Rockaway, New Jersey. Ooh. Ooh, she let the dogs out, Tim. As I approached the bottom of my stairs, I briefly glanced into the living room and noticed the candle closest to me was lit. At first, I was in slight panic because I had thought that the candle was lit all night and that it could have been knocked over and started a fire, Tim. But then I realized that 9 hours had passed and the candle didn't look any lower than it was the night before. I decided to approach the candle. When I looked inside, I noticed that there was barely any melted wax. It looked as if it had just been lit. Yikes, it says, Tim. I immediately ran upstairs to my boyfriend and asked him if he remembers blowing out that specific candle, and he said he did because the flame was so close to his face as he blew it out that it kind of scared him for a moment. I told him what I had just seen, and he didn't know what to think of it. Well, later on, I decided to do a little test. I lit the candle again to see how it would burn after an extended period of time. Sure enough, after an hour, there was about 3/4 times more wax melted than I had seen earlier that morning. I've always had strange occurrences, especially in my house, but this by far is the craziest. My dad seems to think it just relit itself like embers can do in a fireplace, but I'm not sure if a wick can do that after 9 hours. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. Thank you so much, and that comes from Christine in Rockaway, New Jersey, Tim. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that? Candles relighting themselves 9 hours later?
That one, other than extremely dry conditions and no.
We got nothing.
No.
Well, Hi, Dave and Tim. You guys rock. Keeping up the great work. I'm new to your show in just under a year now and love the show. I can't get enough of it. ANUFF. Enough of it, Tim.
No, really?
I'm from Trail, British Columbia, Canada. Lots of haunted places here because of lots of death. Been here, BIN here, Tim. My friends, one coworker, once see a train go through road across in field. Tarzan apparently wrote this one to us, Tim. And the side of the mountain area, she did some research about the train, and it's happening, HAPP''N, to be a train, and it went through the area back when World War II was happening. So that's one haunting. Another is when I was 19, our local beach here, I was taking some pictures at the beach, and it appeared shadow figure and a well and a snake-like figure. See, Tim, I'm just giving you an example of why I ask for punctuation and spell check. Mm-hmm. I found out another year, like a year later, there used to be an Indian tribe where now is a beach. I got lucky, IGOT, all one word, got lucky. One of the tribe people showed up for the celebrations, and I talked to him, and he told me about a story his tribe used to tell when he was a kid. He thought it was to scare them. Some they got to bed, or just a story idea. Huh? Are you seeing what I'm talking about here, Tim? Mm-hmm. The snake-like shadow I seen was a sturgeon. The tribe used Pull Out River, and they were like 30 feet long or bigger. And the tribe found this girl injured, floating in the river. I took her back to the beach, which was their home base idea. She ended up living with them, and at age 35, she died, and spirit never left. I scare him when showed him the photo I used to have, because this was before BEFOR, his time. Other spirit thing I know where here is a local hotel. I've seen at least 20 different shadows and 10 orbs. Spelled orbs right, Tim. I've heard, HURD, poker chips and cards and a ball bouncing. And my friend heard, HURD, a big bang like he scared one and it dropped. What, WAT, it had. And he's been, BIN, touched by more than one at a time. A cold chill across his neck and arms. From what, WAT, I found out is more than 60 people have died in there over the years. Well, I figured I share if you guys and everyone else, and I got some other ones, send you some mail. Hope this gets shared on one of the shows. Oh, by the way, my name is, I'm going to redact that name, Tim, because I feel kind. Just don't call me late for dinner. LOL, had put Lil Funny in there. Can't wait to hear your next shows. Night, and talk to you later. So that's why I ask for spell check in paragraphs, Tim. That was one giant paragraph of misspelled, no punctuation, and craziness. I love your stories. I'm sure there was a good one in there. I just can't tell you what it said. WUT. What, Tim? Our final story. And this looks promising, Tim. I see punctuation, capitalization, paragraph, well-structured story. Are you ready for this? It's called Meeting the Devil, Tim. Mm-hmm. Hi, Dave and Tim. Love your show. You guys are the best. This happened back in 2004 when me and some friends of mine were playing a Ouija board one Friday night because we were young and dumb and none of us had ever done it before. The host of the get-together had brought one earlier that day and had read up on it so that he would know what to do when we all came over that night. One of my friends who was there, we'll call him Jeff, was a non-believer. Shun the non-believer, Tim, in the paranormal and much less in religion and God, etc. Jeff sat outside of the circle and just observed myself and the rest of us playing with the board. About 15 to 20 minutes into it, we were not getting any activity from the board, and I said that I was done. So I sat out alongside Jeff to observe with him, and it seemed almost instantly that the moment I sat down with Jeff, we all heard a loud, single knock come from the hallway. It made us all jump, and my friends took that as a sign that they were getting feedback from the board, and we went back to playing. At this point, Jeff was a wee bit buzzed from the alcohol that was served, and he started to taunt and yell at the board, and to no one in particular, things like, "Satan is a bitch! Come on, you wimpy demon, show yourself! None of this is real," etc. After I got him to settle down, my friends decided they had had enough, and they put the board up, and we continued our night socializing. to have a good time. Jeff was ready to call it quits when we wanted to go to bed, and he and the host lived in the same house together, so he said his goodnights and headed off to bed while the rest of us stayed up to socialize. The following is what Jeff later told us had happened to him. When Jeff got into his room, he undressed and got into bed, and he just laid there for a while, kind of staring at the ceiling when he felt a cold chill come over him. He didn't feel right, so he sat up in bed, almost anticipating something was going to happen. He looked toward the door, and at the bottom of the door frame, he saw a dark fog-like cloud moving across towards the front of his bed. It came up over the top of the bed towards him, and he said he wanted to run, but he couldn't move. He was shoved back down onto his back, onto the mattress, and the dark fog moved up his body and enveloped his vision, and he heard, but not with his ears, but in his head, "How real am I now?" He let out a scream and was able to finally move, got up, ran out of the room into the den where we were, bare naked and as pale as a ghost. He fell to his knees, Tim, and was trying to catch his breath. And we were all asking him, "What's wrong? What's going on?" He only shook his head and started to cry. We stayed up with him that night and went for a drive until dawn. He refused to go back into the house for a couple of weeks and stayed with his parents. Wonder if he was naked the whole time. When he did go back to that house, it was to grab the rest of his things and move out. Jeff never told us what he experienced that night until about 4 months after the fact. He has not been the same since. He keeps to himself, doesn't go out much, drinks heavier, got into drugs. But the one drastic change that we all noticed after that night is that he now wore a crucifix around his neck. Thanks, Dave and Tim, for all you do. I love Beyond the Darkness, by the way. Take care, and that comes from Cade. Well, thank you, Cade. Thank you all for sharing your stories. And remember, call and be voices from beyond. Call our voicemail, 651-300-4977. Fill up our voicemail this week with your tales of the strange and supernatural so Tim can feature them on next week's program when I'm out of town. 651-300-4977. 651-300-4977. Or you can always email me your stories, dave@darknessradio.com. For that guy, I'm this guy. You've been listening to That Show. We'll be back again tomorrow with more of the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness.